Daniel Reed had been working in Lab 4 for 3 hours straight, carefully cataloging soil samples from 17 different planets. His stomach growled loudly enough that he worried the sensitive recording equipment might pick it up. He glanced at the wall clock. Nearly midnight. Everyone else had gone to sleep hours ago. The research station orbited Verdania, a planet covered in thick jungles and strange plants. Daniel had arrived only 2 weeks earlier, thrilled to finally work with alien plant life after years of studying Earth crops. The station housed scientists from 8 different species, though Daniel was one of only 3 humans aboard. He stretched his arms above his head and felt his back crack. The soil samples could wait until morning. His lunchbox sat on the desk in the break room, probably right where he left it. Daniel stood and walked down the quiet corridor, his boots making soft sounds against the metal floor. The break room was empty. Someone had left the lights on low, giving everything a dim blue glow. Daniel found his lunchbox on the counter, but when he opened it, his heart sank. Empty. He must have already eaten everything during his afternoon break and forgotten to refill it. He sighed and closed the box. His stomach complained again, more insistent this time. The station cafeteria would be closed and locked. He could go back to his quarters and find something there, but that meant a 10-minute walk through 3 different sections. Then he remembered the fruit Dr. Kilara had shown him yesterday. The avian scientist had been so excited about her latest samples from Verdania's surface. She kept them fresh in Lab 4, where Daniel had been working all evening. They were in a sealed container, but she had pointed them out to him with such enthusiasm. Daniel paused. Had she said not to touch them? He tried to remember the exact words. Dr. Kilara had definitely mentioned something about being careful, but she said that about everything. She was always cautious. Besides, if they were really dangerous, they would be in the high-security containment area, not just sitting in a regular lab. He walked back to Lab 4. The container sat on the counter right where he had seen it earlier. Through the clear material, he could see 6 round fruits, each about the size of an apple. They were deep red, almost crimson, with a slightly bumpy skin that caught the light. Daniel opened the container. A sweet smell filled the air, like honey mixed with cinnamon. His mouth watered immediately. He picked up one of the fruits. It was heavier than he expected, firm but not hard. The skin felt warm to the touch. He should probably ask Dr. Kilara first. That would be the smart thing to do. But she was asleep in her quarters in the habitat ring, and Daniel was hungry now. Plus, if the fruit was toxic to humans, surely she would have put up warning signs. The container just had a basic label with a scientific name he could not pronounce. Daniel took a bite. The fruit was incredible. Sweet and spicy at the same time, with juice that burst across his tongue. The flesh was soft like a ripe peach, and the flavor reminded him of mangoes with hints of caramel and a warm, peppery finish. He took another bite, then another. Within a minute, he had eaten half the fruit. The lab door suddenly opened with a loud whoosh. Dr. Kilara stood in the doorway. Her feathers were ruffled from sleep, and her large eyes went even wider when she saw what Daniel was holding. For a moment, she just stared. Then she let out a sound Daniel had never heard before, a high-pitched shriek that hurt his ears. "What have you done?" she screamed. She ran to the wall and slammed her hand against the emergency alarm. Red lights began flashing throughout the lab. A loud siren started blaring. Dr. Kilara grabbed a communication device from her belt. "Medical emergency in Lab 4. Human has consumed Crimson Pod. I repeat, human has consumed Crimson Pod. This is not a drill." Daniel looked down at the fruit in his hand, then back at Dr. Kilara. Her beak was trembling. Was she crying? "I am sorry," he said, suddenly feeling very stupid. "I was hungry and I thought it was okay to eat. It tastes really good." "Good?" Dr. Kilara's voice came out as a whisper. "You think it tastes good?" Heavy footsteps thundered down the corridor. Nurse Brax arrived first, his insectoid body moving with surprising speed. Behind him came Captain Yoshi Tanaka and 2 other crew members Daniel did not recognize. They all stopped when they saw Daniel standing there, still holding the half-eaten fruit. "How much did he consume?" Nurse Brax asked, already pulling out medical scanning equipment. "At least half a pod," Dr. Kilara said. "Maybe more. I do not know how long he was eating before I arrived." "Get him to medical bay immediately," Yoshi ordered. "Prepare the emergency treatment room." Daniel felt confused. "I feel fine. Just a little warm and my mouth is tingling, but in a nice way. Like when you eat spicy food, everyone stared at him. You feel fine? Nurse Brax moved his scanner over Daniel's body. The device beeped rapidly. That is not possible. You should be unconscious. You should be dying. Daniel looked at the fruit again. It really did not look that dangerous. Dr. Kilara stepped closer, studying his face. The crimson pod is one of the most toxic plants in this entire sector. It kills most species within 5 minutes. We use it in our research because nothing should be able to eat it and survive. Daniel took another bite of the fruit. Everyone gasped. But it is delicious, he said. The medical base smelled like chemicals and something else Daniel could not identify. He sat on an examination table while 3 different doctors ran tests on him. Nurse Brax kept checking the same readouts over and over, as if he did not believe what he was seeing. 2 days had passed since Daniel ate the crimson pod. He felt perfectly healthy. Better than healthy, actually. He had more energy than usual, and his mood was strangely good despite being poked and scanned for hours at a time. Dr. Kilara watched from the corner of the room, making notes on her datapad. She had barely slept, according to Yoshi. The avian scientist seemed torn between scientific fascination and lingering horror. I do not understand this, Nurse Brax said for the 20th time. Your liver is breaking down the toxins, but not in any way I have seen before. The poison compounds are being converted into something else, something harmless, something your body is actually using as nutrients. So I am not going to die? Daniel asked. No. You are disgustingly healthy. Nurse Brax waved his many arms in frustration. This should not be possible. Dr. Wynne Foster, the other human scientist on the station, leaned against the wall with her arms crossed. She had been called in to help explain what happened. Earth is what we call a death world, she said. Higher gravity than most planets, extreme weather, lots of natural toxins in the plants and animals. Humans evolved to handle difficult conditions. But crimson pods kill everything, Dr. Kilara said quietly. We have tested them on 43 different species. All died. Even small amounts cause organ failure. Wynne nodded. Human livers are unusually good at filtering toxins. We eat things that would poison most species. Capsaicin, caffeine, alcohol, theobromine. Our bodies turn dangerous substances into energy or waste. Daniel felt strange being discussed like this, as if he were a test subject rather than a person. Can I ask a question? Everyone turned to look at him. Can I have more of the fruit? The room went silent. More? Dr. Kilara's feathers stood up straight. You want to eat more crimson pods? They really do taste amazing, Daniel said. I keep thinking about that flavor. Sweet and spicy and warm. I've been dreaming about it. Nurse Brax made a sound like air escaping from a tire. He has developed a craving for lethal poison. This is the worst thing I've ever heard. But Dr. Kilara's expression changed. Her eyes narrowed in thought. Actually, that makes sense. If his body is converting the toxins into beneficial compounds, then his brain might be recognizing the crimson pods as valuable food. The craving could be biological. Absolutely not, Yoshi said from the doorway. Daniel had not noticed the captain enter. We are not feeding him more poison just to satisfy scientific curiosity. What if we start with very small amounts? Wynne suggested. Under controlled conditions. We need to understand this. If humans can safely eat crimson pods, that has huge implications. Yoshi looked at Daniel. How do you feel about being a test subject? Daniel thought about the taste of that fruit. His mouth watered just remembering it. I'm willing to try. For science. Over the next week, they conducted careful experiments. Daniel ate tiny pieces of crimson pod while connected to monitoring equipment. Then larger pieces. Then whole pods. His body handled all of it easily, converting the toxins into energy and nutrients. Other crew members gathered to watch through the observation window. Word had spread throughout the station. The human who could eat poison had become something of a celebrity, though Daniel was not sure he liked the attention. On the 8th day, Yoshi made an announcement. The Interspecies Health Council is sending representatives. They want to verify these results and understand what it means for human biology. Dr. Kilara pulled Daniel aside after the announcement. I need to apologize, she said. For what? I screamed at you. I thought you were dying. I thought I had failed to protect you. Her feathers ruffled with emotion. I have been studying crimson pods for 3 years. They are my specialty. And you just ate one like it was a snack. Daniel smiled. To be fair, it was a really good snack. She made a sound that might have been a laugh. I have been watching the security footage of that night, over and over, trying to understand how I missed the signs. You looked so calm just eating something that should have killed you instantly. I was just hungry, Daniel admitted. I feel bad that I caused all this trouble. Trouble? Dr. Kilara tilted her head. Daniel, you have made one of the most important discoveries in xenobiology. Human tolerance for toxins is far beyond what anyone suspected. This changes everything we thought we knew about your species. That night, Daniel lay in his quarters staring at the ceiling. Through his window, he could see Verdania rotating slowly below. The planet was covered in jungles, and those jungles were full of crimson pod plants. Millions of them, growing wild. A message came through on his communication pad. It was from Dr. Kilara. Tomorrow, the representatives arrive. They will want to run more tests. They will want to understand how you survived. But I want you to know something. You are not just a test subject to me. You are a colleague, a friend, and I am grateful that you did not die from eating my research samples. Daniel smiled and sent a reply. I am grateful too. Also, I was wondering, do you have any more of those crimson pods? I really am craving them. Her response came quickly. I knew you would ask. I have set aside a container just for you, but we are calling them something new now. The research team voted. From now on, they are Terran Spice Pods. Daniel laughed. Terran Spice Pods? He liked that name. It sounded much better than lethal poison fruit. He fell asleep thinking about tomorrow, about the tests, about what all this meant. But mostly, he thought about that incredible taste and how strange it was that something so deadly to everyone else was delicious to him. Ambassador Trell arrived on a sleek diplomatic shuttle that docked with the station at exactly 900 hours. The reptilian diplomat moved with careful precision, his scaled skin gleaming under the station lights. Behind him came a team of scientists, doctors, and officials from various council worlds. Daniel waited in the conference room with Yoshi, Dr. Kilara, and Wynne. His palms felt sweaty. This was much bigger than he had expected. The people arriving today would decide what his discovery meant for humanity's place in the galaxy. Try to relax, Wynne whispered to him. Just answer their questions honestly. Ambassador Trell entered first, followed by the others. They took seats around the long table. Daniel noticed that several of them stared at him with open curiosity, as if he were an exotic animal rather than a person. Let us begin, Trell said. His voice was smooth and formal. We have reviewed the medical reports. The evidence is clear. Humans can consume crimson pods without harm. The question now is why and what this means. Wynne stood and activated a display screen. Charts and diagrams filled the air. Earth is classified as a Class 4 death world. High gravity, dangerous weather patterns, aggressive wildlife, and plants that evolved chemical defenses. Humans developed strong immune systems and efficient livers to survive. One of the scientists, a being made of what looked like living crystal, spoke up. But crimson pods are not Earth plants. How can humans metabolize toxins from a completely different world? The compounds are similar to substances found on Earth, Wynne explained. Alkaloids, glycosides, complex proteins. Human bodies recognize the basic structure and break them down using the same enzymes we use for our own plants. Ambassador Trell turned to Daniel. Tell me, human, what did the crimson pod taste like? Daniel had not expected that question. Sweet and spicy, like mangoes mixed with caramel and pepper. The juice was thick and the flesh was soft. It was one of the best things I have ever eaten. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably. The crystal scientist made a sound like wind chimes. This creature describes lethal poison the way I would describe a delicacy. Because for him it is a delicacy, Dr. Kilara said. She had been quiet until now. I have run nutritional analysis. Crimson pods contain complete proteins, essential vitamins and compounds that stimulate human brain chemistry in positive ways. For Daniel's biology, they are perfect food. Another representative spoke. This one from Verdania itself. Governor Hask was a tall being with bark-like skin and leaves growing from his head. My world has struggled with crimson pod plants for centuries. They grow everywhere. They kill our livestock. We cannot clear them because they spread so fast. Whole regions are unusable because of these plants. Daniel saw where this was going. You want humans to help clear them. Governor Hask nodded slowly. If your species can eat them safely, and if you actually enjoy eating them, then yes. We could offer a trade agreement. You remove the plague plants, we gain farmland, everyone benefits. How much cropland are we talking about? Yoshi asked. Millions of acres, Hask replied. The crimson pods cover approximately 30% of our arable land. If we could reclaim even half of that, it would transform our agriculture. Trell leaned back in his chair. This raises interesting possibilities, but also concerns. If humans can eat what kills others, what else can they tolerate? Should we be worried? Worried about what? Daniel felt defensive. He had not asked for this strange biology. About humans being too different, Trell said carefully. About what other tolerances you might have. Some council members fear that such differences could be dangerous. Wynn's expression hardened. Dangerous? We are talking about humans being able to eat fruit, not about weapons. Fear does not follow logic, Trell replied. I am simply stating facts. There will be resistance to this discovery. Some will see it as proof that humans are unpredictable, alien in ways that make them uncomfortable. The meeting continued for 3 more hours. They discussed trade possibilities, medical research, and the potential for humans to help other worlds with similar problems. Several planets had toxic plant infestations they could not control. If humans could safely consume these plants, entire industries might develop around it. Daniel's head was spinning by the time they finished. He had come to this station just wanting to study plants. Now he was sitting in diplomatic negotiations that might change humanity's economic future. After the officials left, Dr. Kilara found Daniel in the observation lounge. He was watching Verdania rotate below, thinking about those millions of acres covered in crimson pods. You are famous now, she said, settling into the chair next to him. News has spread across the galactic network. Everyone is talking about the human who eats death. I do not feel famous. I feel confused. She nodded. Change is always confusing. But think about this. My people have studied crimson pods for years, trying to find ways to destroy them or make them useful. You solved the problem by accident, just by being hungry. Do you think it will work? The trade agreement with Verdania? I think it could work very well, Doctor, Kilara said. But more than that, I think this shows something important. Humans are different from other species in unexpected ways. Those differences can be valuable. They can solve problems no one else can solve. Daniel smiled. I never thought eating a piece of fruit would lead to all this. Neither did I, she admitted. I thought I was going to watch you die. Instead, I watched the beginning of something new. Through the window, Verdania's jungles stretched across the visible hemisphere. Somewhere down there, crimson pods were growing by the millions, waiting. Daniel felt that strange craving again, that desire for the sweet and spicy taste. Dr. Kilara, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think there are other alien foods that only humans can eat? Other things that are poisonous to everyone, else but might be safe for us? She looked at him with those large avian eyes. That is exactly what I have been wondering. Would you be interested in finding out? Daniel grinned. Absolutely. For science, of course. Of course, she replied, and her beak curved in what might have been a smile. For science. 3 weeks after the council meeting, Daniel stood in a modified lab that had been converted into what Dr. Kilara called a tasting room. Screens lined one wall, showing live feeds being broadcast to research stations across the galaxy. Dozens of scientists were watching, waiting to see what would happen next. On the table in front of Daniel sat 12 containers. Each held a different substance that was considered toxic, lethal, or otherwise dangerous to the majority of known species. Dr. Kilara had spent weeks assembling this collection, reaching out to colleagues on different worlds, gathering samples that made other scientists nervous just to handle. Are you ready? Dr. Kilara asked. She wore protective gloves even though she would not be touching anything dangerous. Old habits, she had explained. Daniel nodded. He felt surprisingly calm. Let us start with the first one. Wynn was monitoring his vital signs from a medical station nearby. Nurse Brax stood ready with emergency equipment, though everyone suspected he would not need it. Yoshi watched from the observation room with Ambassador Trell, who had stayed on the station specifically to witness this experiment. Dr. Kilara opened the first container. Andorian ice peppers. They grow on a frozen world where the temperatures never rise above -40 degrees. The peppers contain a compound that causes instant respiratory failure in most species. Even touching them can be dangerous. She used tongs to place a small blue pepper no bigger than Daniel's thumb on a clean plate. Frost formed on the plate's surface immediately. Daniel picked up the pepper. It was cold enough to sting his fingers. He took a bite. The taste hit him like a wave, cold and hot at the same time, with a sharp, clean flavor that made his eyes water. He chewed slowly, letting the sensation spread through his mouth. "Spicy," he said. "Really spicy, but in a good way. Like the hottest pepper from Earth, but with a minty coolness underneath." He ate the rest of the pepper. Wynne checked her readouts and shook her head in amazement. No respiratory distress. Heart rate slightly elevated, but within normal range. The scientists watching via the screens erupted in discussion. Daniel could see them on the monitors gesturing and talking rapidly. "Next sample," Dr. Kilara said. She was taking notes faster than Daniel had ever seen her write. "Kelvin berries from the jungle world of Talax 3. Highly neurotoxic. Causes paralysis followed by death in approximately 90 seconds. The berries were bright yellow and looked harmless." Daniel popped 3 into his mouth. They burst with juice, sour and sweet at the same time, like lemons mixed with honey. "These are really good," he said. Tart, refreshing. 5 minutes passed. Daniel remained completely mobile, showing no signs of paralysis. They continued through the samples. Sulfur root from a volcanic planet, which tasted like horseradish and made Daniel's sinuses clear instantly. Violet mushrooms that caused violent hallucinations in 47 different species, but only made Daniel feel pleasantly relaxed. Crystal fruit that dissolved organic tissue on contact, yet Daniel described as crunchy with a mild sweetness. Each time, the results were the same. Daniel experienced interesting flavors and minor sensations, nothing more. His body processed every toxin efficiently, turning poison into nutrition. By the 8th sample, the scientists watching had gone from excited discussion to stunned silence. Dr. Kilara kept glancing at Daniel as if seeing him for the first time. "How do you feel?" Wynne asked, honestly. "Great, some of these are delicious. I would eat those Kelvin berries again right now if you let me." Nurse Brax made an exasperated sound. "He is rating lethal poisons like they are items on a restaurant menu." "That is essentially what they are for him," Dr. Kilara said quietly. She looked at her notes, then at the remaining samples. "I think we need to stop here for today. This is already more than enough data." But Daniel noticed one more container on the far end of the table. "What about that one?" Dr. Kilara hesitated. "That is a fungal specimen from the dark caves of Rigel 7. It is not for consumption. It is too dangerous. Even I would not suggest testing it." "What does it do?" "It causes complete sensory hallucinations, memory loss, and psychological breaks. Of the 47 species we mentioned earlier, that fungus affected all of them. Some never fully recovered." Daniel looked at the container. It held what appeared to be gray mushrooms with purple spots. "If you do not want me to try it, I will not. But we came here to test human tolerance. We should be thorough." Ambassador Trell's voice came through the intercom from the observation room. "The human makes a valid point. If we are going to understand the limits of human biology, we must test comprehensively." Dr. Kilara's feathers ruffled with agitation, but she carefully opened the container. "Very small piece," she said firmly. "Just enough to measure response." She cut a tiny section of the mushroom and placed it on a clean plate. Daniel ate it before anyone could change their minds. The taste was earthy and mild, like regular mushrooms from Earth. He waited. Everyone watched his eyes, looking for signs of hallucination. "I feel a little sleepy," Daniel said after a few minutes. "But that is all." "Sleepy?" Nurse Brax checked his instruments. "The fungus that causes complete psychological breakdown makes you sleepy?" "Maybe I should sit down," Daniel said. He moved to a chair and sat. Within minutes, he was yawning. They monitored him for 2 hours. He dozed peacefully, then woke up feeling refreshed. No hallucinations. No memory loss. No psychological trauma. The most dangerous substance Dr. Kilara had collected did nothing worse than make him take a nap. After Daniel left to rest in his quarters, the scientists gathered in the conference room. The mood was strange, a mix of excitement and something else. Fear, maybe, or awe. "I have been studying xenobiology for 30 years, one of the watching scientists said via video link. "I have never seen anything like this. Humans are not just resistant to toxins, they are practically immune." Ambassador Trell stood. "This information will spread quickly. Every species in the galaxy will learn that humans can eat things that would kill them. Some will see opportunity, others will see threat," Dr. Kalara spoke up. "Then we must control the narrative. We must show that this is a gift, not a weapon. Human biology is unusual, yes, but it is also valuable. How do we do that?" Wynn asked. "By continuing the research," Dr. Kalara said. "By showing how human tolerance can solve problems, help worlds, create opportunities. By making Daniel not a curiosity, but a bridge between humanity and the rest of the galaxy." Yoshi nodded slowly. "We will need to be careful, but I think you are right. This is bigger than one human eating strange fruit. This is about finding humanity's place in a diverse galaxy." In his quarters, Daniel lay on his bed staring at the ceiling. His mind was full of flavors and textures of foods that should have killed him, but instead delighted him. He thought about Dr. Kalara's question from weeks ago. What other foods could humans eat? What other problems could they solve? He smiled and closed his eyes. Tomorrow they would start planning the next phase. But tonight, he would dream of ice peppers and yellow berries, of mushrooms that made him sleepy and roots that cleared his sinuses. Tonight, he would dream of being useful in ways he never imagined. The message came through at 0300 hours, waking Daniel from a deep sleep. Emergency protocols activated throughout the station. Red lights flashed in his quarters. He grabbed his clothes and rushed into the corridor. Crew members were running toward their emergency stations. Daniel caught up with Wynn near the central hub. "What is happening?" "Korgeth ships," she said, breathing hard. 3 of them. They jumped into orbit 20 minutes ago. They are demanding to speak with the council representatives. Daniel's stomach tightened. The Korgath Empire was known for military strength and aggressive expansion. They viewed most other species as weak or inferior. If they were here, it was not for friendly conversation. The command center was crowded with personnel. Yoshi stood at the main console, talking rapidly with someone off-screen. Ambassador Trell looked tense, his scales darker than usual. Dr. Kalara stood near the science station, her feathers pressed flat against her body in obvious distress. Admiral Rex appeared on the main view screen. The Korgath leader was massive, with thick gray skin and small dark eyes that showed no emotion. "I am here to discuss the human situation." "There is no situation," Yoshi said calmly. "We are conducting legitimate scientific research." "You are creating biological weapons," Admiral Rex replied. "Humans who can survive any poison, who can eat death itself. This is a threat to galactic stability." Daniel felt anger rise in his chest. He stepped forward before anyone could stop him. "I am not a weapon. I am a person who happens to have a strong stomach." Admiral Rex's eyes focused on him. "You are the one. The human who eats crimson pods?" "Yes, and Kelvin berries, and Andorian peppers, and about 8 other things that taste good but apparently scare everyone. Your biology is unnatural, dangerous." "My biology is evolution," Daniel said. "Earth is a difficult world. Humans adapted to survive. That does not make us weapons." Ambassador Trell raised a hand. "Admiral, the Council has already reviewed this matter. Human biological traits are natural evolutionary developments. There is no evidence of genetic engineering or hostile intent." "That is what you say," Admiral Rex growled. "But I see a species that can consume toxins that would kill my soldiers. I see a potential threat that must be controlled." Before Yoshi could respond, alarms sounded throughout the station. Security alerts flashed on multiple screens. "Unauthorized entry in Cargo Bay 3, a security officer reported. "Multiple contacts. They are moving toward the research labs." Admiral Rex's image disappeared from the screen. It had been a distraction. While they talked, his soldiers had boarded the station. Yoshi immediately activated lockdown protocols. "All personnel to secure positions. Security teams to Cargo Bay 3. He turned to Daniel. "You need to get to a safe room. Now." But Daniel looked at Dr. Kalara. "The samples. All your research. They are going to destroy it. Samples can be replaced," she said, but her voice shook. "Your safety cannot." Officer Lynn Park, the station's head of security, appeared in the command center. The human woman was already wearing tactical gear. 6 intruders. Armed but not firing. They are heading toward Lab 4. That is where we keep all the toxic samples, Wynn said. If they damage the containment units, those toxins will flood that entire section. Yoshi's expression was grim. Seal off that section. Do not let them reach Lab 4. But the security alerts changed. The intruders had already reached the lab. Sounds of breaking glass came through the audio feeds. Then another alarm. Containment breach in Lab 4. Toxic gas dispersing through ventilation. Section C is compromised. Dr. Kalara made a sound of distress. Section C leads to medical. Nurse Brax is there, and 3 patients from the night shift who were injured in a cargo accident earlier. We cannot reach them, Lynn said, checking her tactical display. The ventilation system is pumping that gas through the entire corridor. Anyone who enters will die within seconds. Daniel was already moving. He grabbed an emergency breathing mask from the wall and started running toward Section C. Daniel, stop, Yoshi shouted. He cannot survive that gas, Wynn called after him. It is a mix of everything in the lab. Concentrated poison, but Daniel kept running. He remembered Dr. Kalara's tests. He remembered eating ice peppers and mushrooms and berries that should have killed him. If his body could handle those toxins separately, maybe it could handle them together. He reached the entrance to Section C. Through the window, he could see green gas filling the corridor. It looked thick, almost solid. Daniel took 3 deep breaths, dropped the mask because it would not help anyway, and opened the door. The gas hit him like a physical force. His eyes watered immediately. His skin felt like it was burning. He held his breath and ran forward, following the emergency lighting on the floor. Medical bay. 20 meters ahead, he could see Nurse Brax collapsed near the door, his insectoid body motionless. Beyond him, 3 crew members lay unconscious. Daniel's lungs were screaming for air. Black spots appeared in his vision. He grabbed Nurse Brax and pulled him toward the door. The insectoid was heavy, but Daniel had trained in Earth gravity. He was stronger than most species realized. 10 meters, 5 meters. His chest felt like it would explode. He had to breathe soon or pass out. He reached the door and pulled Nurse Brax through. Then he went back. The gas was thicker now. He could barely see. He found the first crew member and dragged them out. Then the second. Then the third. When he finally emerged from Section C for the last time, he collapsed. His lungs pulled in air desperately. The gas had followed him out, but it was dispersing quickly in the larger space. Medical teams rushed forward. They pulled the injured crew members to safety and began treating them immediately. Someone put an oxygen mask over Daniel's face. He looked up and saw Dr. Kalara standing over him. Her eyes were wide and her beak was open in shock. You held your breath for almost 4 minutes, she whispered. In concentrated poison, you should be dead. Daniel tried to speak, but his throat was raw. He managed a weak smile instead. Security forces found the Korgath intruders and arrested them. Admiral Rex denied any knowledge of the attack, but his ships left orbit quickly. The incident would be investigated by the Council, but everyone knew what had really happened. It had been a test, and Daniel had passed. Later, after his throat had been treated and he could speak again, Daniel sat in the observation lounge with Dr. Kalara. She had barely left his side since the medical team cleared him. Why did you do that? She asked. You risked your life. Because I could, Daniel said simply. Because my strange biology meant I was the only one who could save them. That makes it my responsibility. She looked at him for a long moment. You are not just biologically unusual. You are brave. Foolishly brave. Is that a compliment? Yes, she said. It is. 6 months had passed since the Korgath incident. Daniel stood on the surface of Verdania for the first time, looking out across a forest of crimson pod plants that stretched to the horizon. The air was humid and warm, filled with the sweet smell he had come to love. Behind him, human agricultural teams were setting up harvesting equipment. They had started small, clearing just a few acres. But the operation had grown quickly. Crimson pods were now being exported to human colonies across 3-star systems. Restaurants called them Terran spice pods and charged premium prices. Some chefs were becoming famous for their recipes using the strange fruit. Governor Hask approached, his leaf-covered head rustling in the breeze. By the end of this year, we will have cleared 2 million acres. 2 million acres of farmland returned to us. My people are grateful. "We are happy to help," Daniel said. "And the fruit really is delicious." It had become more than just clearing land. Human scientists were studying the plants, finding new uses for them. The compounds that were toxic to other species turned out to have medical applications when properly processed. Pharmaceutical companies were developing treatments based on crimson pod chemistry. Dr. Kalara's research paper had been cited over 3,000 times. A shuttle landed nearby. Dr. Kalara emerged, followed by Wynne and several other scientists. They were here to present their latest findings at a joint symposium between Verdania and the Earth Science Council. "Are you ready?" Dr. Kalara asked Daniel. "Our presentation starts in 2 hours." Daniel nodded. He was nervous about speaking in front of hundreds of scientists and diplomats, but Dr. Kalara had insisted he be part of the presentation. His perspective as the first human to eat a crimson pod was important, she said. He was the bridge that connected the research to reality. The symposium hall was packed. Beings from dozens of species filled the seats, all eager to hear about the ongoing research. Daniel sat on the stage next to Dr. Kalara, watching the audience murmur and point at him. He was used to the attention now, though he still found it strange. Dr. Kalara began the presentation with scientific data about human metabolism and toxin processing. She explained how Earth's difficult environment had created humans with unusual biological resilience. Her slides showed detailed chemical breakdowns of how human livers converted poisons into nutrients. Then it was Daniel's turn. He stood and walked to the center of the stage. 6 months ago, I ate something I should not have eaten, he began. I was hungry and careless. I did not read the warning labels, and that accident changed everything. He talked about the taste, about the craving he developed, about the strange feeling of being simultaneously normal and extraordinary. He talked about the fear he saw in people's eyes when they first learned what he could do, and the gradual shift to acceptance as they realized he was still just a person. Humans are different, Daniel said. We can eat things you cannot eat. We can survive things you cannot survive. But that does not make us dangerous. It makes us useful. It means we can solve problems that have no other solutions. He gestured to the windows where the crimson pod forests were visible in the distance. Those plants were a plague. Now they are a resource. Not because we destroyed them, but because we found value in something everyone else feared. The audience was silent, listening carefully. Biodiversity is not just about plants and animals, Daniel continued. It is also about people. Different species, different biologies, different strengths. We are all part of the same galaxy. We should celebrate our differences, not fear them. When he finished, the applause was immediate and enthusiastic. Even the Korgath representatives in the audience were nodding, though they still looked uncomfortable. After the presentation, a young Korgath scientist approached Daniel hesitantly. She was much smaller than Admiral Rex, with lighter gray skin and eyes that showed curiosity rather than hostility. I wanted to apologize, she said quietly, for what my people did, for the attack on your station. We were wrong to see you as a threat. Daniel smiled. You are not responsible for what others did. And I understand the fear. I probably would have been scared too if I learned about a species that could eat poison. But you are not scary, she said. You are fascinating. I have been studying your biology, the way human enzymes work, the efficiency of your filtration systems. It is elegant, beautiful even. They talked for several minutes about human metabolism and xenobiology. She asked questions that showed deep understanding and genuine interest. When she left, she thanked him 3 times. Dr. Kalara found Daniel later on a balcony overlooking the crimson pod forests. You did well today, she said. I was terrified. You did not show it. She stood next to him, looking out at the view. I have been thinking about that night 6 months ago, when I found you eating the pod. I thought it was the worst moment of my career. I thought I had failed to protect you. And now I think it was the best moment. Because it led to all of this. She gestured at the forests, at the harvesting operations, at the future they were building together. You showed me that failure and discovery are sometimes the same thing. That accidents can lead to progress. Daniel thought about that. So what comes next? We have mapped human tolerance for a lot of alien foods now. We have trade agreements. We have pharmaceutical research. What is left? Dr. Kalara smiled. Everything. There are thousands of worlds with plants we have not tested, hundreds of species with problems we might solve, And we have only just begun to understand what human biology can teach us about survival and adaptation. Sounds like a lot of work. It is. Are you interested? Daniel looked out at Verdania's jungles. Somewhere out there in forests on planets he had never visited were plants and fruits and vegetables that everyone else considered deadly. But maybe, just maybe, they would taste amazing to him. Maybe his strange biology could turn poison into opportunity, danger into discovery. I am definitely interested, he said. For science, of course. Of course, Dr. Kilara replied, her feathers ruffled with what Daniel had learned to recognize as amusement. For science. That evening, there was a celebration dinner. Humans ate crimson pods prepared a dozen different ways, from raw to roasted to mixed into complicated sauces. Alien guests watched with continued amazement, then cautiously tried mild human foods that Daniel and the other humans had prepared. Strawberries, chocolate, mild cheese. Things that were safe for most species but still exotic and interesting. Governor Hask stood to make a toast. To our human friends who taught us that one species' poison can be another species' feast. To cooperation across differences. To finding strength in diversity. Everyone raised their glasses. Daniel looked around the room at the faces of beings from a dozen different worlds, all brought together by his accidental discovery. He thought about the journey from that night in Lab 4 to this moment, from fear and confusion to understanding and friendship. Ambassador Trell approached him after dinner. The Council has been discussing your work. They want to create a new position. Special envoy for xenobiological exchange, someone who can travel to different worlds, test compatibility with human biology, build bridges between species. Someone like you. Daniel felt his heart race. That sounds incredible. It will not be easy. There are still those who distrust humanity, still fears to overcome, but I think you are the right person for this work. Daniel thought about Dr. Kilara's question. What comes next? Now he knew the answer. Everything came next. Adventures and discoveries, new foods and new friends, new worlds and new possibilities. He looked across the room and caught Dr. Kilara's eye. She nodded at him, encouraging. She believed in him. That was enough. I accept, Daniel said to Trell. When do I start? The ambassador smiled, showing many sharp teeth. Tomorrow. There is a world 3 systems away with a fungal infestation they cannot control. They have asked specifically for human assistance. Daniel laughed. More mushrooms, perfect. He spent the rest of the evening celebrating with friends, eating crimson pods, and planning the future. It was strange how life worked sometimes. How being hungry at the wrong time could lead to the right discovery. How eating something dangerous could open doors to something wonderful. As the party wound down and guests began to leave, Daniel stepped outside one last time to look at the stars. Up there, among those distant lights, were worlds he would visit, problems he would solve, foods he would taste. He smiled at the universe and all its possibilities. Tomorrow, the real adventure would begin.